Reform should include zero, no immigrants. Drop the curtain. Drop the curtain. Look into every asylee in this country. Look into everyone from the Middle East, from the Caucasus. Look at everyone who's come into this country since the time of Bill Clinton from these areas and make sure they're not another Boston bomber. Wouldn't that make sense? Must I reduce everything to a simple concept for you to understand the danger you're in because of men like Schumer? Do you understand the danger you're in because of quislings like that fraud Rubio? Because he has a Hispanic last name? Suddenly what is wrong with you people? What is wrong with you? Can't you see he's a quisling? Didn't you hear about the leaked emails over the weekend? That Rubio and the other quislings was saying, how can we use the Boston bombings to push immigration and amnesty? They were going to use this tragedy to push amnesty. They were plotting to do it. And sure enough, they went on the Sunday shows and they tried to spin it so that the bombing should be used to bring in more immigrants. Rubio should be laughed at as the fraud he is. I don't know how in the world Limbaugh has hitched his wagon to this fraud. I don't understand it. Rush is an intelligent man. Now, let's put everything aside. He is an intelligent man. He has no education, but he's done very well for a person with a high school degree. Take a look at how far he's come. I mean, he's got street smarts. How could he fall for Rubio? How could a guy like Rush fall for Rubio? How is that possible? I can look right through him and tell you what he was from day one. So nevertheless, Rubio is now wanting to push with Schumer and that other fraud more immigration. This should end immigration until we clean out the entire flock of those who are in this country. Go through every one of them. Every one of them. Every last one of them. Put them through a second interview. Are you crazy? Let's say you're living on a mountaintop and you have a farm with 1,000 people, a community of 1,000 people. And there's been no attacks in your community. You're self-sufficient. You have enough food. You've got enough corn and livestock. You're exporting food from your farm. There's very little disease. It's God's promised land. Now you start bringing in immigrants to your community. You say, well, look, they're so poor. Let them live on the perimeters of the farm, but they're not going to work. We're going to work for them because we have so much. We can afford it. So we'll give them extra corn, extra wheat. We'll give them some of the meat. They don't have to work. They don't even want to worship in your church because they don't believe in your religion. Let them build their own. You know what? We believe in freedom of religion. Let them build their own religious enterprise, their own religious institution on your farm. All right. What's that? There's a lot of those religious things going up. They're not working, and they're in there. What's this about? Then the bombs start going off. And every time you catch one, it's one of them. So, well, you know what? Let's bring in more of them so they feel comfortable. Are you crazy? That's what Schumer and Rubio want you to do. That's what they want you to do. Now, I realize this sounds offensive to you because you've been brainwashed. And when your brain is completely and thoroughly washed, truth sounds offensive. Truth sounds offensive. But I'm going to remind you of something that Winston Churchill taught us. And what he taught the world is that the First Amendment was written. He didn't call it the First Amendment because the Brits don't have the First Amendment. They have no freedom of speech. But he said freedom of speech was written for offensive speech, not for polite speech. It was not written for polite people who smile at each other and don't offend each other. The First Amendment was written for offensive speech. I understand that. I'm in the offensive speech business. I don't go out of my way to be offensive, but every word I utter is offensive to someone. I have a massive audience that loves me. And then there's a massive audience of anti-American haters, many of whom were born here, whose brains are so twisted with hatred for this country that they take anything patriotic and they say it's hateful. Well, so be it. It's their loss. It's their loss. And there's nothing I can do about lost souls. There's a whole lost generation in America right now. Unfortunately, there's too many of them. And even more unfortunately now, they're using drugs to such an extent that I don't think we could ever save them. Marijuana is the final nail in their coffin of idiocy, stupidity, anti-Americanism, and the inability to understand the first thing about reality.